us. We've got game number 2 coming at you, and it will be on Cursed Hollow. Tempo Storm choosing this. Lag Force has chosen first pick after losing the last game. What do you think about a Cursed Hollow pick?
I think it's a lot better odds for Lag Force. I mean, by no means is this going to be a lack of comfort for Tempo Storm, but Lag Force always looks better on a map where they don't have to be so concerned with the minions. Though, yes, they have been drafting more macro focus as of late, and yes, they have been doing things with more with macro at the back of their minds. I do feel like any map like Cursed Hollow, where team fighting is the core, transitions, and just, you know, being willing to skirmish, and you can't get a lead by split pushing. I say that. You can't get a game-winning lead by split pushing. You still have to do a couple things right throughout the mid-game.
Well, both of these teams have still been having high priority on globals. I don't expect that that changes here on Cursed Hollow. I expect that we'll see something like an Abathur ban or early pickup, maybe an Abathur Genji for the double Genji, some Dahaka too, definitely for both sides. But what did you think of Malthael from Fury? Because that was another question we had there.
You know, I'm a little bit torn. I feel like at no moments did I really see, like, he had a couple really huge Tormented Souls, but, like, I mean, let's be real here. One of them was Leon Black actually flipping him into the team, and it was a full 5-man. Like, it's just one of those, he didn't stand out so much as that was the Fury element, right? That he was the one making that play individually more than it just kind of landed in front of him. So I feel like I need more games before I can totally make a decision here over Fury.
We're not quite, his Malthael isn't quite to the level of his Dahaka maybe, landing every single freaking drag on the planet. But it was cool to see Fury. I mean, we've been casting him for a really long time. He has been, you used to play against him. He's been a warrior player for forever. So to see him only really have maybe a week, maybe a little bit longer. I know that he was putting a ton of work in this week to make sure that he was ready for this adjustment, as ready as he could be for this weekend. It's great to see that pay off with a win. Lag Force, another Medivh ban.
No surprise there. Only climbing here in NA. And Lag Force wants nothing to do with it. Tempo Storm has recently displayed that they're comfortable picking it up, and as long as you show that you have it in your arsenal, I don't find any team that bans the Medivh. You know, it's just understandable, you know? Really, you just didn't want to deal with it, nor did you feel comfortable locking it in for the first pick. Tassadar, though, is the hover for Tempo Storm over the Abathur. I thought for sure this would be the Abathur, risking the Task Tracer over that macro focus. And even if it's let through, can we assume that Lag Force would be the team to auto-lock Abathur first pick?
They have played it.
They have played it. I want to say yes, but I'm also, again, because it hasn't been as consistent, they haven't displayed the Abathur as like a core part of their compositions rather than just a, oh, we can play it once in a while. I'm not sold that this is going to be a lock-in.
Even if it was, it would still leave a lot of things open for Tempo Storm, like having Dahaka. But it's not an immediate lock-in, even if it is going to be Abathur.
We also have to be considering the fact that Lag Force is playing with Leon Black, which suddenly makes who's playing what hero. I actually feel like that might be the hardest part about playing a slug with a sub, not a slug. He tried to mix the words there together, but the slug's here. We get the first pick Abathur for Lag Force.
Probably then Dahaka for Tempo Storm, but what else past that? Do they get Dahaka Genji?
I feel like you have to deny the Genji because you do not want to risk a double Genji on a map like Cursed Hollow, and then you have to take the Dahaka here if you're going to take it to try and match the global. I personally don't feel as if the Dahaka is an absolute must. I think it caters towards the strengths of Tempo, especially, you know, with the role swapping there that they have into Fury, and it makes sense into the Abby. I don't know. I'm torn on Dahaka's value right now because of the lack of Illidan that exists across the board. How good is Dahaka when his #1 counter is not played, right? Should he rise in power or should he lower in power because at the back of your mind you know that there is something that can counter it and always available, and especially with an Abathur Illidan, that's pretty, you know, it's a nice duo to have on the same side.
Rhaegar. Rhaegar emphasis for Tempo Storm. Sort of Space Station-esque that high up in that pick, but having it with Genji, make sure that there is a burst heal for Genji available so that he can continue, and with the Dragon Blades once we get to level 10. So Dahaka's still available for Lag Force. Potentially they need to get Warrior here if there is a limited availability for their sub-player, Leon Black.
I feel like there's an awkward moment here for Lag Force where we see the Abathur picked up, and kind of the awkwardness of it is, so who is going to be the clone target and how high do you have to prioritize them? Because when you pick an Abathur first pick and you don't pick the clone target in this 2-3, you suddenly have to go, well, we have to make it past the secondary ban and the next 2 picks, which is unrealistic for you to get your tier 2 clone target. So that means your tier 3, which again, playing with the sub and the diversity of your hero pools, it suddenly stretches you a lot more when you're playing with your core 5. Playing with the sub, I feel like suddenly you're going real deep to where you see those weird, like, you know, I'm playing a hero I would never play, like ever again. Those freak kind of cases where you see Mary Day playing Tracer or something. But they go with the Grey Mane, so we aren't going to find the conundrum. Right. They're going to be okay. But if they had waited on it, and they ever wait on that with an Abathur, I feel like it's worse for them than almost every other team in NA.
Well, even sans the Grey Mane, there was still a possibility for Malthael clones. We've seen a lot of teams be comfortable with having a double Malthael, because they feel like he can put in a lot of aggression toward the backline, enough to get things like steal attributes as a possibility. Tempo Storm banned Uther, so trying to make sure that they are limiting the protect the Malthael, the Grey Mane, the invulnerabilities, possibly, but Tyrael is still up.
Tyrael is still available, and, you know, Arthas is still available too. And that is a hero typically into these Death Ball Abathur compositions that really does stand out. You slow the momentum originally with your Frozen Tempest and the Howling Blast for the initiation. Then you use the Army of the Dead and that Frozen Tempest for the counter initiation. As long as you get something else to aid with that counter momentum into team fights that can hit the pause button for Lag Force. And conveniently, those are really synergistic. Almost so much so that I kind of like that as a power pickup, but it's like, those are so out of meta, Tempo doesn't have to prioritize them, even if they're within their thought process, right? So we can wait that one out. But Lag Force can't. They've got 6 seconds. What do they want to rid of? Dahaka. Interesting choice.
Still leaves ETC up now if Tempo Storm wants to get that.
But then you just incentivize the Falstad a lot by banning the Dahaka. Like, if you left the Dahaka available, then the odds of Tempo Storm maybe wanting to pick that up to reserve for one of those globals is pretty high, unless you're afraid of both, and that's a big enough concern. I just feel like now, knowing the situation with the Abathur, what you want into that, and the Malthael still on the other side of the table, it's like Falstad or Dahaka. I'd rather the Falstad if I had to rid one of the two. And boss control, not even considering the map, like just putting all that aside, Falstad's far better boss control. Tempo Storm legitimately can go in any direction, I feel like. There's the Falstad. Give me an Arthas and a Tyrael as the last 2, and I will be one happy camper. Not because I think it's necessarily the best, but it's fun to watch. Love this type of composition on a map like Curse.
The Tyrael denial would be awesome. But they're going to get ETC instead. ETC honestly has been rising in power a lot. That
one probably makes more sense considering like the actual objective international meta right now, going with the ETC. But I mean, I can dream, right? I have desires. I can want to see the Arthas Tyrael duo.
ETC in North America right now is sitting at a 75% win rate in Phase 2. It's pretty good.
Could say he's rocking it.
Yeah, it's you could. I won't, but you could.
Yeah.
You would.
No, because I'm more mature than those poor dad jokes. I read the internet last night, and they were just ripping me apart, Gilly. I don't know.
Dad Knot is in full force this weekend, guys.
Hey.
Prepare your ears. But not even a small amount of games. 18 out of 24.
Yeah, he's honestly, I feel like he's like Garrosh. We could sit there and talk a lot of like why this hero makes sense to always be impactful. Like Murden. Murden will almost never fall out of the meta completely. He might fall to tier 3, but his default kit and the way that he works innately is so synergistic and more importantly impactful within almost every map that they have a place. And with all the other nerfs going around the board, makes sense he is popping up here. But Murden and Malfurion are the choice for Lag Force as their last 2 picks. A lot of AoE damage there coming out from them. Not so much burst healing. And a solo warrior.
Those 2 also offer 2 different ways of trying to deal with the mosh pit. In general, Lag Force has a good team comp to try to deal with an ETC. Between Cursed Bullet, if Grey Mane goes for that, he may want to go for the throat to make sure that he can assassinate people who are low from Reaper's Mark. But even Reaper's Mark, what does Rockstar do? Gives you armor when you use your abilities. What does Malthael have? Ways of getting through armor with his Reaper's Mark. So Malthael should be able to try to get ETC low enough that he doesn't feel comfortable finding a mosh pit or is forced to go for a mosh pit that is less than optimal, and then they can stun it out.
And that is legitimately the first thing that you look for whenever you're trying to minimize the impact ETC will have. Is just go, do not let him have free reign of wherever he may want to control himself.
But that changes things.
We didn't get the Arthas, but we still got the Tyrael here.
Yeah.
You know, it is the holy cow, the original there between Sanctification and the Mosh Pit. A lot of, like, just deadly heroes on the members or roster of Tempo Storm. But I still don't mind that here of Lag Force. It just feels so not them that it's hard for me to have confidence behind it, you know? I don't mind the changes. It's very apparent, you know, if you are in that Crucible range, you have to make a change to improve. So I'm never going to deter that, but it does feel like, you know, it's just so out of their normal realm that I'm like, anytime I see Lag Force with an Abathur, I go, you know, really? Like, your early game is not necessarily an area I would risk having a disadvantage.
True, but Lag Force has been making that change for all of Part 2. So maybe the coolest thing is they're not taking these losses and immediately saying, we have to change everything up. We have to make a ton of role swaps. They are looking at the long game, and I feel like this is maybe the first time the whole year that it's felt like Lag Force. This core 5 members have been willing to look more long game. I
mean, I completely agree. It does feel like that way, and, you know, sometimes it just, you get the feel and you got to stick with it, and that is one where I agree with you. When looking towards these drafts, though, Lag Force, they did take it of a risk. They have a lot of insanely impactful heroics. Not so much boss control. They are going to struggle with their Abathur because the fall set is on the other side of the table. I mean, I'm going to be honest. It feels like Tempo Storm just all around wins this draft. Unless somehow Lag Force can get a huge macro rotation. And again, not their strength. So it's going to be a tall task here to take out Tempo Storm.
Well, let's see if they can do that tall task. They can do the thing. Game 2 is just about to be underway on Cursed Hollow between Tempo Storm and Lag Force.
But Malthael and Malfurion, okay, so can I throw out a crazy theory first? Just before we get into this game?
Is it going to be Last Rites?
It's going to be Tranquility with Tormented Souls with full heal build on Abathur.
Nice. Well, you're not going to get the last one.
Yeah, okay, we've already accepted the idea that Dread's crazy theory is out of the window. But into these team fights, Mosh Pit, Sanctification, Gust, all very high impact and deter the crap out of Tormented Souls and your Tranquility. So why would you ever want to move in that department, Dread? That makes no sense. Well, the odds of Sanctification being stacked with one of those two, probably pretty high. Most likely the Mosh Pit indirectly. So as long as you get one of those rotations out, you have a chance into a team fight, but only if you have 2 equally impactful heroics on your side of the table to distribute. One being Trank, which, let's be real here, it's not as impactful as it used to be, and it's not enough to justify. But if it was, you know, saw a couple number tweaks, and then number 2, then you have the Tormented Souls. You pop out fight number 1, Tranquility goes down, Gust, you restore, you reinitiate it, you got the Tormented Souls.
What makes me laugh
old rope-a-dope
is just the fact that you kept being like, you kept qualifying it like,
and then
well, it's not going to happen with Abathur, and also this isn't even as impactful as it used to be. So you'd have to not only do this, but you have to go back in time. So what we're going to need here, guys, is a time machine. We're going to go back into time. We're going to make it to where Tranquility is more valuable, which means that Malthael is not going to be there, but don't worry, guys, because I've got another plan, and then that's Dread's wacky meta.
You haven't even considered the idea of what if we could
draft... Why you say me? Don't say me in this, Dread.
Okay.
This is you. This is all you.
I accept it. It is me. You know, I just sometimes I like to think about different ways to approach the game. It's a sad mini game.
Including time travel.
Including time travel. Can't count on any options here, Gilly. Tempo Storm has applied pretty good pressure here for the first minute 20 into the Abathur of Lag Force. If anybody viewing at home has never seen an Abathur composition, let me just break this down. Levels 1 through 13, specifically levels 1 through 9, you're very far behind. And then 1 through 13, you really want to make sure you find a way to be on even footing. And if you do so, chances of winning the game are pretty high. But when you lose first blood like Lag Force was able to get with the Abathur comp, you gotta feel so good about your chances in this game.
And we had already talked about the ability to control ETC, and I'm so glad that Lag Force and Tempo Storm were willing to give us the time to have it shown to you in first-hand experience, because that is exactly what it's going to be like. Malthael can just rip through his health bar. The armor does not help him because the % max health damage ignores armor, and then the lockdown that Muradin provides, Caterpillar's going to have to play it safely to make sure that he has a relatively high health bar so that he can pick and choose where to have the best impact on a mosh pit. But prior to that, he'll just be looking to survive. and Rhaegar, having Rhaegar around as well as Tyrael should help with that. Tyrael can give him some shielding, give him some movement speed too.
But with
See that here.
But with this tribute spawning up on top, this is a huge advantage for Lag Force. The fact that they did have a bit of pressure up on bottom, but they can at least use that Abathur onto the side map, and Tyrael's matching him up on bottom with those Giants. So they have, I mean, essentially, you could not have drawn a better picture over that mini-map on what is a optimal 3 minutes of this game for Lag Force.
And honestly, Tyrael is one of the better heroes for trying to deny a tribute. So now they are down not having Tyrael with Herodric reforging, who has his Eldraine up more often. Falstad is now flown down to mid.
They were willing to commit the flight just to get a transition towards mid. Any hero can mount up and walk to that lane, but they used a global. You can see Tempo Storm's kind of got the jimmies on rustled right now, because they are not understanding what they need to get away with, and it cost them the first tribute of the game.
First tribute. There's a tower already down in the bottom lane thanks to that earlier pressure from Lag Force, which means you look at the experience bar, and it's exactly where Lag Force wants to be with this Abathur composition.
I just feel like, you know, anytime I see an Abathur composition, it really just, the story kind of goes, like they're on this long mission, a drastic NASA mission in outer space, right? And it's very complex. A lot of things have to go right for everybody to make it.
Oh,
and the whole way, you're just checking through, just going like, is this still good? Do we have a chance of winning this game still? And then look back at the sheet, be like, are we down a talent here? And if the answer is no, you'd be like, we got a chance. Right now, Lag Force has got all the check marks.
They're checking all the boxes, but it won't be if they lose their support, and Tempo Storm ensures that by taking out Tomster.
At least there's Sneaky Snake here up on top with the 3-man boss. Abusing that adrenal overload, they've got themselves the boss. You gotta have to be sitting here and kind of asking yourself, what's a 4-minute boss gonna get done? And I'm gonna leave you with a fattle, probably not much.
Not too much. It may take out the towers, drain some ammo from that, so they can get some more sieging down there. But this is prompting Tempo Storm to now consider their boss. Tempo had a rotation to get the tribute. It was in their favored position. But seeing a lot of the members of Lag Force go off the map does not bode well for them to continue getting this boss unchecked.
The amount of confidence Leon Black just displayed for not being an HGC player was actually ridiculous. He just blind dwarf tossed into a, no idea, dude potential 5 in that shrub. It was actually 4. Falstad displayed himself on top. But still, he raw dwarf tossed up in there without an avatar. I'm just saying, this guy, I feel like he's got to have some kind of experience that we're missing out on, because right now he is feeling comfortable here.
Dreadnought's new favorite player.
Leon Black.
Catches him with the Storm Bolt. B-Kid uses Wraith Strike to body block Caterpillar, and with the roots, he goes down.
Bing, bada boom. Tomster making it happen. It's 15 seconds, no ETC. Lag Force, are they going to get a second tribute? Are they going to be tribute a Curse Point with a even experience on Curse Hollow with an Abathur composition?
They've got the Mule to heal up towers.
Holy, I wanted to say cow, but there's that actually exists in this game, so it's a little unfair.
Confusing.
My goodness, Lag Force is, they're just really turning it up here in the series.
You could say that they've turned it up to 11, in fact.
Or they turned down the lag, one of the two. It's because Zuna's gone, nobody's got lag anymore.
Oh, is that? That's the magic. There's no lag F.
So then everybody...
I think he figured it out, the conspiracy.
We've got it. Lag Force here, Zunaless, strongest form, not because of the lack of play, or the, you know...
Lack of Zuna, it's just the lack of lag.
My goodness.
Here's the heroics. Lag Force gets theirs, go for the throw over Cursed Bullets. They won't have that as a way of pressuring, but honestly, they've been doing a fine job pressuring ETC already. Mosh Pit over Stage Dive.
Curse Point Tribute spawns in 10 seconds. It is going to be spawning on the side of Tempo Storm. We're yet to see what Fury wants to lock in for his heroic choice, but I'm pretty confident it will be the Sanctification. B-Kid still holding on to his.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
He's waiting for the Saints. Once Sanctification's locked in, you locked in Tormented Soul, or you locked in the Last Rites. But if you lock into Judgment, then obviously you don't. See, you didn't see my sarcasm in my tone while I was saying that to you originally?
It didn't sound sarcastic
in
the least.
I'll get a little bit better on that one. But no, it's there is a little bit of an argument for waiting on it on the Tormented Souls side of it, but for the Sanctification being held on to, you know, I am all down for the Judgment swap, especially into a Cleanseless support, but it doesn't feel like this would be the comp to get away with it. Abathur comps for all-in kill comps usually not that great, because if you kill the one, somebody else gets cloned, and it's still an even footing.
Yeah, Sanctification's pretty good with Mosh Pit.
It's
dang good with the Dragon Blade. So you're going to want that with that. But now things have slowed down quite a bit on Cursed Hollow. We are on curse point for both of the teams, with a global on each side.
Big E gets revealed. Catalyst chasing it down. Doesn't go in. He actually retreats back after moving through that shrub. Curse point. Tribute spawning here. Falstad will fly.
He's going to fly in defensively. Safe positioning. Not going to go any crazy gust shenanigans. Would rather hold on to the gust as a way of stalling and stopping the momentum of Lag Force's fight.
B-Kid's flanking around. June starts the channel. It will get interrupted. He's not going to commit with the all-in. He does get the first teleport, but
Biggie, Dragon Blade.
Twilight Dream only hit the Genji.
Ancestral.
It goes.
It barely keeps Psalm alive, and the mosh pit afterwards hits two. Biggie is down.
Tempo Storm, 2 kills, and they are not done. Psalm wants another reset. It is just a clone, though. iDream will end up falling, and a curse will be secured for Tempo Storm.
Root staves off Caterpillar for a little bit of time, but Psalm is right on top of Tomster. The rest of Tempo Storm is following, and there's no structures to go to help out. Finally, Leon Black has to leave Tomster to his fate. 20 seconds without Malfurion. No Moonburn to help out with the clear of minions. And Tempo Storm is ready to wreak havoc across Cursed Hollow.
And Lag Force without the 13 Talonteers and without their Malfurion, I don't know if they can do anything to be able to stop this. The global Falstad pressuring out through mid secured the secondary fort, so now only one fort remains for that Mule to possibly gain value. And sometimes that is the thought process for a Mule on Cursed Hollow, is to make up for these, you know, kind of half-pressured cursed moments like that tower was for a moment, or this bottom one, it still stands, but it will end up going down. And so Lag Force has lost that pause button window. They have now lost enough to be concerned with their compositional strength, and more importantly, where they find themselves in this game, especially as those bosses come back online.
Yeah, the good news for Lag Force is they're going to get a spike in experience by trying to soak up a lot of minions. There's a huge minion wave in the top lane, and they're on curse point. But the problem is there's going to be a little while there isn't too much done. We're going to take another look at that last team fight, which led to the curse of Tempo Storm.
And it all started with a brilliant Twilight Dream to be able to try and zone off the Genji. Then the Ancestral coming in with June at the very last second onto Psalm. The Mosh Pit did get a solid zone out there, locking in the 2 kills. I mean, just across the board, Tempo Storm had 3 extremely clutch moments. And it's the reason they were successful there in that fight. But Lag Force really did. It started out looking really pretty up until about the Ancestral from June.
Yeah, from that, turning that around, the Mosh Pit, catching 2, and not even needing Sanctification was a good indicator of how flawless Tempo Storm played that fight out. Now a boss has been grabbed. This was a moment where Lag Force could have looked for a team fight, but Tempo Storm's fast rotation gets the boss. That's not a concern, and Tempo Storm are now so close to 16. There's not too much that Lag Force can do when trying to go out and get a fight. They just have to try to hold on to the best of their ability against these multiple waves of pushes. Every single lane has a mercenary camp pushing in.
About the only positive thing remaining here for Lag Force is this boss is only 10-minute scaling rather than the 11, which is a bit of a big spike. You know, it's a little bit greater than most minute spikes. Other than that, it is a grim tale. Psalm opens up there with that switch strike. Malthael is going to drop himself a Tormented Souls. Fury's on the back line. No Sanctification used yet. The boss throws down the slam. The gust is forced, and Tempo on full retreat.
Cleanse came out to help with the mosh, but it was just a little bit not in time. Now Twilight Dream has been stalled out, so it's on that lower respawn or cooldown timer. Clone has been dealt with. Leon Black zoned away from the rest of the team with that mosh pit, and he drops. 3 kills, 2 kills so far. 3 makes it with the Greymane. Ancestral Healing heals up Psalm so that as soon as Malfurion pops out of the Ice Block, Sanctification and the rest can take care of him. Only Abathur left against Tempo Storm in this boss. And Tempo Storm takes a quick second victory, sub 12-minute game on Cursed Hollow.
Tempo Storm? Wow, that is my voice right now. Tempo Storm must in fact listen to my calls, my begs over game number 1, and decided let's flex some dominance here. Under 12 minutes on Cursed Hollow. It wasn't, you know, it didn't start out as dominant as I expected it to be, but the minute they got that curse, it was just donezo for Lag Force without having a global. I mean, they do, but without having a global to be able to match the siege of the Falstad, it just led to fort on fort on fort, one stack of death, another, and that's game.
Yeah, getting the triple fort and then rotating back, getting boss, and Lagforce feeling the pressure that they had to fight there because it was a 13 to 15 and their window to team fight was running out. Not getting the fight because they were slow to that rotation, slow to the boss, and then just getting chased down on the other side of that. Tempo recognizing they could take the game from that puts them at a 2-0 lead in the series. We're going to a commercial break. After the break, we'll have game 3, and we'll see if Lagforce